Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is the kickoff of the 2024 Analytics Forum, a digital event presented by Spotfire. My name's Michael O'Connell. I'm the Chief Analytics Officer at Spotfire. And this year's Analytics Forum is a series of webinars run in the second half of 2024. And the kickoff event is the topic of what is visual data science? And this is where we are going today with Spotfire. So I'm going to give a quick overview of that, get into the Spotfire Copilot a little bit, some of our industry applications, and wrap up with some description of our community. Okay, so Spotfire and visual data science. What is visual data science? Well, it's a combination of visual recognition with the eyes and data science with the brain so that you can immediately see, that's a circle, you don't have to read those words. And in fact, the human brain can process entire images that the eye sees for as little as 13 milliseconds. So if you do visual first with brain inside, that's what we do with Spotfire. We put up compelling visual first data science analyses that you recognize immediately, spot the fire, and we apply that to scientific problems, whether it's in operations, engineering, product quality, whatever the case may be. And really, Spotfire is a visual data science platform that makes smart people smarter by combining interactive, immersive visualizations and advanced analytics to solve complex industry-specific business problems. Okay, so how does Spotfire work? Well, you connect to data, you visualize it, you transform it, you twist and turn and morph your way around that, spotting the fire in the data, and then you model, filter, mark, slide, model, and predict, and you have an application then that you can distribute for people to do their daily round-the-clock decision-making. It really is a unique product. It helps you think and get to the action in the data. So that is the category that Spotfire falls in, visual data science, where the user's the domain expert. They know what they're trying to find out, scientist, engineer, quant. There's multiple data sources, multiple visualization layers. The exploration is strong, interacting with data models, visuals to solve a problem. The data wrangling is in line with the visuals. While you're creating the visuals, you're wrangling the data, and the data pipeline is automatically created. Unlike a data science platform where you create that pipeline, in Spotfire, you visually explore and that pipeline gets created for you. It's deeply integrated with embedded engines for Statistica, R, Python with the visuals. And you create these applications that get served out to thousands of people with very simply save as to library, and you get an application out there in production. So very, very different to BI, which is more the everyday business person. The data is in a rectangular format. You produce a report. You know, there's limited algorithms and data science. And it's very different to a data science platform too, where you create that linear flow and you really worry about training and finding the right predictors and the power and comparing the parameters and then deploying a model. This visual first approach is really unique to Spotfire. So let's start with that. Let's talk a bit about the visualizations and explorations. Well, there's more than 60 visuals. It's also an extendable palette for immersive, pliable experience to get insights from data. Here's some of the visuals that we've been working on recently. It's really been a step change in the amount of visuals in the Spotfire product over the last couple of years. You can see there a network chart, a waveform map, word cloud, Sankey diagram, rows chart. One that I'll just highlight briefly today is the violin chart, which is a fairly new one. It does process control. It's got a box plot inside of it, but it allows you to have multimodal distributions, which is very important in certain industries, whether it's manufacturing or population modeling. You can have a categorical variable. You can compare the multimodal distributions. You can control the kernel smoothing parameters, statistical testing, visual display parameters, really a comprehensive look at distributions and comparisons of distributions. Okay, geospatial, strong area. Certainly maps is a big part of it. That's one of the reasons we're big in energy sector, but also anything, really a wafer map in manufacturing or top right-hand corner, map of the San Francisco airport for transport logistics applications. Automatic calculations that are sophisticated on top of these maps, whether they're geographic or other coordinate systems. So tessellations, hex bin, grid bin, points in polygons, areas, optimal routes, trade areas, integrations with GIS systems, real-time data, map services, spatial files and coordinate systems, multi-layer calculations within and between the layers, and map anything, and drill down to the nanometer. When we're doing high-tech manufacturing wafer mapping, we're literally drilling down to the nanometer and getting alignment of the multiple layers. Python and R functions can run automatically on a script or a marking. So here, for example, I'm just highlighting a map, some wells, geology samples on a map. Fit a Voronoi tessellation, do a heat map, add some contour lines, multi-layer mapping capabilities with drill down within between the layers and drill down to other parts of the analysis. Okay, so moving into modeling and prediction. So we've got more than 60 or so data functions, transformations, stats tools, machine learning, deep learning, time series, natural language processing. And the calculations are powered by our inbuilt Statistica, Python, and R engines. You can download the data functions from the community, add it directly to your flyout, and then just click it in to your analysis. The user interface from the Python code is automatically generated for point-and-click analyses. You can pick up these 60 or so data functions from our community site, but if you want to write your own in Python or R, you can do that, and the parameters of your function will get generated into a point-and-click UI for your audience. And like I say, you can run on a marking, but the auto deployment is pretty cool too. So the Spotfire server, its nodes and services architecture, takes care of all the packages and deployment to the different people licensing, governed to see that application, runs automatically in a web player through automation, packages are managed, governance and licensing is managed. Code generation can occur with the Copilot. I'll get to that in a moment. And we've also put the DSML code up on PyPy for open source contributions while providing packages to run as data functions inside of Spotfire. So here's an example of a few of the data functions: anomaly detection, time series, geospatial, natural language processing, model exploration, evaluation, vision analyses. And here's a quick example. So I'm going to look at these green things here are weather stations. The white things here are wind turbines. And I'm going to predict wind as a function of time across different seasons throughout the year and put a contour prediction around the wind direction and speed and use that to predict turbine power generation. So here, firstly I look at the wind pattern, wind distribution, wind speed distribution. I can see it highlighting the different wind weather stations when I do that across seasons there, spring, summer, fall, winter. I go into my data function collection. I find the contour plot, just click it in. This user interface I mentioned, automatically generated. I go get the data table, the NOAA daily weather data. I map the column, longitude, latitude, from that weather data into my data in my analysis. I pick off the wind speed as the column the target variable I'm going to model. I pick smoothing parameter and basically just click OK. And what happens there is I'll get back a geometry that I drop onto the map chart, and I see that geometry represents a contour plot. I can see how that changes over time as I click, say, spring, summer, fall, winter. That contour map slightly changes, but I'm basically modeling the wind. Now I've got a visualization mod, a rose chart, also from the community. And this is great for looking at wind direction because it plots on a 360 degree. You can see how I'm just mapping the parameters of my data to the inputs of the rose chart function. And there you have it. Voila. I can see that in this particular region at the bottom there of the map, the wind is prevailing, coming from the south during that season. And so now I've got all the data in there for the wind. I can model it and predict the power generation at the different wind turbine locations. Okay, so that's a brief update on visuals and data science and how they come together with visual data science. Let me talk a little bit about AI. It's like everywhere these days, and I wanted to give you a brief introduction to the Spotfire Copilot. We've just put out a third release of it. It's pretty robust and powerful. And I'm going to show you here a manufacturing analysis of yield on the y-axis versus lot on the x-axis. We're trying to maximize yielding. You can see how some lots here have low yield. So let's explore that. And why is that happening? So I'll highlight those lots with low yield. I see the stacked yield maps for those marked lots. I see a red pattern around the edge, which indicates low yield at the edge. I go down to the individual bin maps for the marked lot, and I can see the different tests that have been happened, the bin map tests. So I'm writing a message to the Copilot here saying, can you make me a visual that looks at average yield by X coordinate? So across the wafer, X coordinate, and it comes back with an answer to my question as a graph. It's a little bar chart there. I click it directly into my Spotfire analysis. It's Spotfire ready. And I can see on the edges on the X coordinate from left-hand end to right-hand end, I've got some lower yield. Okay, but that's the average yield across, all of those X coordinates. Let me dig into this a little bit more. So can you create me a stack bar chart to look at the count of bins per lot? So the bin tests are the tests that are done at the end to determine the electrical properties. And I want to see how the lot is affecting that. And you can see some lots have very low test rates on the different bin tests. Some have quite high. The blue one is decent on a fair number of lots, but see those gaps there in the yield. So what is causing that? But firstly, let me get an explanation. The Copilot gives me an explanation of this graph so I understand what bin tests have been done at what lot and what the patterns are. But now let me calculate a Python data function that calculates the distance from the center of the wafer for every die. I don't want to do these averages anymore. I want to get the actual individual distances. So my thinking here is that the distance from center might be a good predictor. So I calculate the data function. The code is generated. The inputs are already populated in my data function area. There's a couple of input parameters, a couple of output parameters. And now that I have that function, I can now calculate the visualization that shows yield as a function of distance to the center, because I've now got that Python code for calculating distance to the center. Okay, so I asked that question, and Spotfire Copilot thinks about it, comes back with a visualization that looks at yield from distance of the center to the center. I click it into my analysis, and I see a very interesting finding here. It's certainly the edge, the bit at the end here, is low, but also the bit at the center is low, 0 distance from the center. And the relationship, how yield drops off, it doesn't just be high and then low at the edge. It's got a smooth relationship. So I've really learned a lot from combination of Spotfire's visual first data science and being helped along by the Copilot. So the way the Copilot works, there's a number of intents. So when you ask a question, we figure out, are you asking us to generate code, create a chart, interrogate your data, have a custom conversation? Those 4 things in purple there we just illustrated in that quick demo. You can also ask it about how to do things in Spotfire or just general questions like data science questions. Behind the scenes, the Copilot is choosing the Y variable, the X variable, calculating the categories of the bar chart and one of those, doing the correct aggregation of yield and basically coming back with a graph. So the architecture for this is we have loaded up here the context sources, all of the Spotfire training manuals, the community site articles, the YouTube Dr. Spotfire videos, everything we get our hands on. We've tokenized that and put it into a vector database. And then when you ask your question to the Copilot in Spotfire, it'll take that question, it'll figure out the context, what is the intent of those 6 intents. You want to create code, create a graph. It'll then, for that intent, go get the optimal tokens to go with your question and send that to the large language model and come back with the answer. Now, we can use any large language model. We started off working with Azure, but we now have anything you want, Google, any of the new models from OpenAI or Meta or Anthropic or Mistral and so on. And the new features we've added include being able to add your own data, customer or industry data in a secure manner, being able to use an on-premises open source large language model or small language model so you can run inside the firewall. A lot of our manufacturing customers want that. And then lots of scalability and accuracy updates, lowering the latency, lowering the token usage. We're using Langsmith as a telemetry to figure that out. But really terrific that you can upload your own data now and have a conversation with that as well as the Spotfire data and merge those 2 things together. Okay, we'll be talking more about the Copilot in a subsequent session, but for now I wanted to give you a flavor of the industry applications that the visuals and data science get used on to great effect. And I'll show you some of the individual visuals and data science and accelerators we have for this. So we are looking at energy, manufacturing, life sciences, consumer goods, financial services, transport, logistics. These are all strong areas for Spotfire. I'm focusing at the moment in this talk and in our team on manufacturing, energy, resources, life science, and healthcare. And I'll give you some examples in those areas, and we'll come back around on the others at a later time. So I'm really super proud and excited to see the dent in the universe that our customers are making in all of these verticals. So we are now down to 3 nanometer chips that are being made by fabs and manufacturers in Korea and Taiwan, and 3 nanometers. That's pretty tiny. A human hair is 90 micrometers. That's 90,000 nanometers. That's 30,000 times smaller than a human hair. These circuits are being marked and etched into silicon to create these chips. So you've got to be able to analyze that at a pretty detailed level to figure out, have you got alignment above for the 30 layers or so? What does the electrical test look like for different componentries? Pretty amazing stuff, what's going on in this area. And I'm really proud and happy to be working with most of the large manufacturers and equipment suppliers and all of that. Energy sector. We got started in about 2008 or so in the energy sector. At that point, US was producing 5 million barrels of oil per day. It's now producing about 15 million barrels of oil a day with a $1.8 trillion contribution to the US GDP. And when we started, people were just getting started on figuring out, how do I drill horizontally? How do I space the wells appropriately to optimize production? How do I figure out where to drill, how to drill, rate of penetration? So this unconventional stuff was really when we got into the energy sector. Lucky timing, I guess, but we've really, I think, I'm really proud of the work that all of our energy customers and our own team have done in optimizing unconventional resource plays across the United States and North America. And then finally, on the pharmaceutical healthcare side of things, saving lives globally, the two most significant manufacturers of the COVID vaccine, where 8.3 billion doses have been administered around the world, saving about 20 million lives is estimated. Both those manufacturers use Spotfire for R&D, for manufacturing. They've both spoken at our previous analytics forums, so you'll see those online. But really proud of the rapidity of getting those treatments to market, the effect in life-saving therapies, and just the whole R&D and manufacturing approval of through the FDA that we were able to help with there. So really proud of our customers and what they do with our product and our sort of small contribution to all of that. Okay, so let's talk about this last piece of the puzzle. We've talked about visuals, we've talked about data science. Now, how do we put that together to create an application and distribute knowledge around things like, energy drilling completions, manufacturing yield optimization, inventory optimization, life science, clinical safety, telco network analysis, CPG retail, next best action, open banking, equipment monitoring. We've got about 30 or so of these accelerators on our community site. There's a starter kits for high value use cases in these key industries. So here's a smattering of them. On the manufacturing side, anomaly detection, statistical process control, wafer map patterns. Anomaly detection, we're using long short-term memory models, autoencoders, deep learning to look at multivariate data that is also got a time dimension, for example, beyond the usual one at a time variables. The wafer patterns is really taking off. How to do defect analysis, yield optimization, looking at energy trading, drilling and completions, real-time data analysis, hospital readmissions, business activity monitoring, customer analytics. These are just a smattering of those 30 or so accelerators, and there's a lot more in the works. So let me drill into a couple of vertical industries and talk a bit about what we do there. So on the manufacturing side, at the factory level, daily operations, equipment availability, overall equipment efficiency, product yield, huge area, wafer yield, defect analysis, scrap analysis, anomaly detection, root cause analysis. On the pharma side, continuous process verification, golden batch, virtual metrology in all manufacturing settings, supply and distribution, workforce management, product evaluation, sustainability. That whole life cycle, we have customers working with Spotfire in those areas. At the moment, we kind of focus on these accelerators to be in the area of equipment efficiency, product yield, product testing, and you see we've got a number of those going on. So one example I'm going to give here is looking at that bin map result of the electrical testing at the end and finding out where a defect might have occurred. So in this case, I've got all these correlations between the layers and the process over time, and I've got the ultimate bin map, and I'm comparing, when those correlations occurred. So here, for example, I see a high correlation here of 0.83 or 0.80 or something like that between a certain layer at a certain time and the ultimate bin map. And I can see, where that is, and I can make some hypotheses about that, about the root cause, and get into the root cause of it. So hugely valuable here. You see this little scratch that showed up at, this is the end testing result, but the little scratch showed up back in that certain date there, and I found it by searching through those correlations, as I did with this other pattern. Okay, so we've got a lot of customers who work with us in this area. Hemlock Semiconductor is one that I particularly enjoy working with, whether it's their energy efficiency or yield optimization or log file analysis. Proud to work with the great guys over at Hemlock Semiconductor. Okay, so the energy sector, all the way from exploration, reservoir characterization, field development, drilling completions, production, trading and distribution, health, safety, environment, sustainability, fuels and markets. Again, we're focusing in at the moment on exploration, reservoir, production, drilling, and completions. These are areas where we've got accelerators, lots of visual mods and data science functions. And you can see here's an example of a visual data science application where I've got a self-organizing map on the left-hand side. I've reduced down hundreds of columns of variables to a 6-dimensional space, and now I'm navigating that self-organizing map to elucidate structure in the subsurface. Where is the high areas of permeability, the TOC content, just figuring out what's going on in the subsurface so I can continue to layer in wells at optimal locations for high production. And again, a number of customers use us here. This drilling optimization, rate of penetration, real-time drilling, navigation, path correction, drill bit monitoring, rate of penetration monitoring. You can see we've got a case study here with Hunt Oil to spot patterns and adjust the drilling in real time. And finally, healthcare. So all the way from hospital operations, pre-processing the patient, the arrival in the lobby, the management of the admission, the order management, treatment, productivity of the operation, whether it's the surgery, operating room efficiency, or throughout the process, optimizing the discharge, the patient packet, readmission prediction, the post-encounter, remote care, telehealth. These are all key use cases. And we've been lately focusing in on quality, productivity, discharge, and post-encounter. And we have a wonderful collaboration going on with the National University Health System in Singapore, where they've built this NUHS Endeavour AI platform to stream data in real time, model it with our Python data functions, and get actionable insights, whether it's in the quality of care by raising pharmacogenomic alerts for certain patient histories and medications, optimizing productivity. If you get the discharge before 10 a.m., that bed becomes available for the next night. So, producing the discharge packet remotely, through the electronic medical record connection, and NLP analyses of those, remote care, using large language models with AI nudges, they call them. I'm very proud of the work that we're doing with NUHS. We had a Dr. Spotfire session at the recent Energy Forum, and Dr. Spotfire put up a QR code and said to the audience, "Give me a one-word description of Spotfire." And this is what came back: magic, magician, platform, integrator, miracle, visual data science. When you get the bug on Spotfire and you start using it, it's a tool like nothing else. And we've got devotees of, my CEO calls it the Spotfire cult. Once you start using and figure out how you can get to the insight, spot the fire in the data and take an action so quickly, easy to use interface with all the power of data science in this visual first approach, there's really no turning back. So just to kind of wrap it up here, the Spotfire community is a place for all of our latest updates. Everything I just showed you on the website. We've got a demo gallery, training, enablement, the industry use cases. And then on our community site, which is pretty new, all the things I talked about today, the data functions, data science functions, the visualization mods, the accelerators, starter kits, and then the Spotfire Copilot, which can help you through the process of creating a data function, creating the visual, building the analysis, really a lot of stuff, and scripting. One thing that I realized when I went out into the trenches was people did not know the wealth of scripting that can be just downloaded from our community site, whether it's Python data functions or IronPython interface configuration or visualization mods. These are all point-and-click downloads, but the code underneath them, Python, JavaScript, IronPython, and so on, we've put a lot of work into that over the years to make those downloadable, clickable add-ons, and you can create your own if you want to. So those are the things I showed today and how we're putting all those together on the community site. So if you want to join the community, come up, community.spotfire.com, create yourself an account. It's all free. Downloads. You can join in our Dr. Spotfire monthly meetings, weekly quick tip videos that shows you how to use all of these tools. And with that, I'm going to wrap it up. This is the kickoff of the Analytics Forum 2024. So great to be up in front of you folks. Wish you all the best, and stay tuned for the next session on the Analytics Forum 2024. And have a great week. Bye-bye.